Welcome to Electric Libertyland, here on the Lions of Liberty podcast, your weekly shot of culture, comedy, and liberty with your host, Brian McWilliams.
All right, welcome everybody to Electric Libertyland episode number 231. Now, for a while now, we've been meaning to do a little bit more video for the podcast. I know you guys are listening through your ear holes every week to my delicious voice and ramblings, but we wanted to get a little bit more involved with YouTube, even though the bastards have demonetized us and we don't know how to get off demonetization. There's basically, there's ways that you can challenge being kicked off YouTube, getting content removed from YouTube. But as of right now, we've not been able to figure out a way to get ourselves back on the monetization, the money train. Denzel Washington, can you give us some advice, please? Have you on the podcast to talk about it. But it's one of those amazing things where this giant company exists, has all these products and services that people use, but you can't really get any fucking contact with them because it is a labyrinth of, walls and just basically every avenue you go to ends in a dead end, and there's nowhere to tell you to go from there, right? So we don't know. We don't know what we're going to do. But either way, it helps us to have more of you watching on YouTube. You get to see my beautiful face, and I'm going to experiment a little bit here with how we're going to do the format, because obviously with my show, there's going to be a lot of edits. And our beautiful VP of social media and social content, Justin Campbell, is going to be helping us out with that and figuring out those edits for us. But for now, I'm going to do a trial run. I'm just going to do the front segment of the show and not go and try to figure out how I'm going to, give him the wink, wink, nudge, nudge to edit out the content yet. I'm tired. I don't feel like dealing with it. But if you want to go, if you're just listening to the podcast and you want to go to our YouTube, it's just youtube.com/Lions of Liberty. And you can see me record this, and you'll get more of this as we figure it out moving forward. But at the top of the show today, I wanted to tell you two things. Number one, go and support our longtime sponsor, Zippix, Zippix, toothpicks.com. These are nicotine-infused toothpicks. They also have vitamin B12 ones, which I like for my hangovers. I'm still hungover from Memorial Day, which is the topic of this rant. But these guys have been a longtime sponsor of the show. Fantastic product if you want that hand-to-mouth feel. Like if you're a smoker, if you're a vapor, if you want something that you're going to be able to put in your mouth, roll it around, get that feel and still get that nicotine buzz, these will help you. I have had personal friends that got off of smoking, got off of vaping by using them. Now, that's not a promise for everybody, but it did help these friends of mine. And I don't know, I love them. They're fun at parties. They're made in a lab. They're FDA registered. This isn't, something made in a guy's woodshed that you don't know what you're getting. You're getting a solid product and something that I love. And make sure to use that promo code ROAR, ROAR, ROAR at checkout for 10% off. Again, that's Zippix, Zippix, toothpicks.com. The link will be in the show notes. Now, like I said, I'm hungover from Memorial Day, right? And I'm not somebody that doesn't enjoy a good federal holiday, right? Even though you can disagree with whether or not they should be mandated, which we can all disagree as much as we want, but I still enjoy my days off. And I'm celebrating it this past weekend, right? Playing a little beer pong, doing a little shots. And I wasn't really going to talk about Memorial Day that often until something today when I was reading through the news links. Howie Snowden, he always sends out his news links, and just in reading about some of the celebrations and seeing some of the celebrations online and what people have posted, thank you for your service. Thank you to those who have died in the past defending American liberties. I couldn't help but think about just how ironic it's become that we celebrate Memorial Day, right? And that's not to take away from the memories of the dead. That's not to take away from those who have died in the service of the country or in the service of something that they believed in, right? The service of something that was the American lifestyle, American liberty, right? Your right to live your life, your right to liberty, your right to protect your family, protect what you've worked for, protect the way of life that you had come to become accustomed to and to believe in as the greatest and most inspirational way of governing that the world had seen, right? To this point, let's say. Now, I know there's a lot of myths and legends involved with military history in the United States, of course. I know that there is a lot of myths and legends that are not necessarily accurate in how we are told the country came together. And I'm sure a lot of that is true. I'm sure a lot of the myths we were told about the founding fathers are not completely accurate, but they did lead to a system which I think should be defended. And it's something that has been eroded over time. And that, of course, like I said, is centric on liberty, centric on personal property, centric on protecting the individual's right to make their way forward. And we've been in several wars, arguably lied into many of them. But in the past, at least we'd say, well, there was a threat at large, right? We're protecting the American way of life. These people went off and died for what they believed in, and they returned. Some of them alive, some of them dead, but they were viewed as heroes, right? Remember the fallen soldiers defending our way of life. And again, I'm not trying to besmirch any of those people. But where it's become a little bit ironic to me is that the people who died in the past protecting American liberty are pretty much a lost generation or generations. These people, with very little doubt in my mind, will never exist again as I would view them. Namely, in that we're now seeing, then this is the irony, those who died for the promise of American liberty in the past are now, compared to those in the present in the military, the people I'd say in the military dying currently are actually dying to end the American dream. They are dying in the efforts of a military-industrial complex, of an empire building that has been going on for the past, 50, 70 years, right? At the very minimum, and obviously you can argue well past that. But they are now dying at the whims of a government that does not exist to protect the liberties of Americans. We are fed a lie. We are brought up and spoon-fed this concept that American liberty still exists in the ways in which the founding fathers envisioned, in which we celebrated, in which people died for in the past, at least ostensibly, right? But nowadays, you look at what we're getting involved in. You look at people who may still be enticed to join the military, right? We still have a voluntary military at this point. We don't have the current draft ongoing, so these are all people that are volunteering. And you see there are quite a bit of psyops going on, as there always have been, in why you should join the military, right? You look at the commercials that are airing all over, and they say, America's, we are a global force for good. At least that was the Navy's catchphrase, which I rolled my eyes at. And the police of the world, lovely. Let's keep policing the fucking world. So you have all of these. You can be what you want to be. Go here, you get your career started. And there's a lot of promise of that because there is a large portion of the population that either does not have the skills provided to them by the educational system, the federally led educational system, I'll remind you, that has failed millions and millions and millions, especially minorities and the poor in this country. You have people that simply don't know what direction to go. They don't know which way to turn with their lives, and they're told that this is a way to get yourself back on track, which does work for some people. I mentioned Howie earlier. Howie was in the military. Many of the listeners of this show were in the military and made something out of that and took something out of it to get their career started for their lives. Right? Jason Stapleton, obviously, is another example of that. He was in, fairly high up in reconnaissance forces. And Howie himself was in, intelligence forces. So you have people that can use the military for good, but at the same time, you also have people that are basically enticed to join because of the promise that they will be fighting for something good. We're told that there are constantly threats at all points and that America is always on the verge of being invaded somehow, despite the fact that the only time we were invaded turned out to start the country up, right? We don't have to worry about it. It's not going to happen. Pearl Harbor wasn't, you can't call that an invasion. You can call that an attack, and it was a singular event. But now we're being told that we're constantly under threat of attack. 9/11 happened. That was an excuse. And that is just like Memorial Day, an excuse that is memorialized to create more fear, create more anger, create more, synchronicity between the population groups to have them continue to bond over, again, this American myth that has been perpetrated, continues to be perpetrated. But we're having people be sent off, even though we're told that we're always under attack, we're told that we always have to defend American liberties. We're seeing people sent off to places that really have little or nothing to do with the everyday American life. I don't see how American troops dying in Somalia trying to fight whatever that, I'm blanking on the name of the terrorist force over there, the Muslim terrorist force, Al-Shabaab, something along those lines. But you have Americans over there fighting them, right? Dying over there. You have Americans across virtually every continent. We have American forces stationed there. We have American forces influencing different people's elections. We have American operatives influencing, like the CIA. I talked about the clandestine force of 60,000 operatives that are employed by our government, the CIA. But taking that aside, actual people on the ground fighting. We've been in Afghanistan for 20 years, and Afghanistan had nothing to do with 9/11 from every practical standpoint. We've been there for 20 years. Americans have died there for 20 years. And now we're talking about pulling out, and nothing's changed. The Taliban actually has more control of land now than they did before. And again, how is this possibly going to impact the American lives at home? The only way I can see the tangible impact of us being over there is that the military-industrial complex continues to perpetuate itself. We have a Pentagon budget it's over $1 trillion now. The last one that passed was $1.2 trillion, again, to perpetuate not only the military-industrial complex, not only the empire building of America, not only the antagonization that could lead to a real legitimate attack from a superpower upon Americans. Not only that, but like I'm saying, the CIA's clandestine operation of 60,000 people. You have the Biden administration with, using this massive military budget built up on this, we must always protect America. We must memorialize the troops who died there for American freedom, American liberty. You have them using that budget to look into hiring outside contractors that don't exist under the actual purview of government, because then they would have to abide by your Fourth Amendment rights, right? They'd have to actually abide by the laws which were put into place under the Constitution, whether or not you approve of that document or not, they exist, right? Your rights, your protected rights. The Biden administration now is looking to use their funds to go around those protected rights and hire private contractors, data mining operations, third parties that exist in the private sector in order to spy on you, the American citizen. So we continue to see the use of Memorial Day as to gin up these jingoistic thoughts. We look to see the anniversary of 9/11. Right, as another reason to keep people never forget, right? We're told never forget that this attack happened. We're reminded constantly. Every news station dedicates hours of coverage to it. We have national speeches being done. We have monuments that have been erected everywhere. We have monuments erected in places as far as Los Angeles. I walk my dogs and there's the 9/11 monuments everywhere, even though I don't know what 9/11 monuments have to do with Santa Monica, but we can never forget. But not only that, it's not only the national holidays insofar as getting people to buy into what we're being told is protecting American liberty, but really is the erosion of it. We look into almost any big holiday now, right? We have been turned Columbus Day into Juneteenth, right? Because now we're celebrating the slaves and the freedom of and black rights and all this stuff. At least that's what we're told we're celebrating. But in essence, is it trying to divide us more as a people? Is it trying to distract us away from what's going on? It's like when you see corporate America embracing wokeism, or the CIA embracing wokeism, which they recently did in their ads. It's that classic trick of misdirection. Look over here. Oh, we're celebrating black rights. We're celebrating women's rights. We're celebrating our diversity. We're celebrating all these things. But as we're looking over there and celebrating diversity, we're ignoring the main culprits here. We're ignoring crony capitalism, eroding the value of the dollar. We're looking at the Fed teaming up with banks, printing trillions and trillions of dollars and undermining the basic American's ability to save and spend and support a family. All the while, we're still propping up government. We're growing the government. We're growing the people that are depending on the government dole. So they're building an army, basically a coalition of people that are reliant on the government. And the military is a big part of that, because you think of how many people are employed by the military. You think about all of those people that are employed in military adjacent careers in creating the bombs, the weaponry, the research organizations, the intelligence organizations, the software that promotes this. I have friends that work in, literally just upgrading the softwares on Coast Guard ships. You're talking millions of people that are enlisted into this coalition. And that's not to mention the people that were injured overseas that are now dependent on the government because they have been laid low, either by virtue of PTSD, by getting their arms and legs burned off, by being burned beyond recognition, by having deep psychological issues, being drug addicted. The government in this threat is what I view. I mean, like I said, the irony of Memorial Day, the irony of most of these celebratory days is that they are eroding the basic liberties, because all we're doing when we're celebrating the current iteration, and again, not to take away from people that have died over there, they probably died believing whatever con they were sold about dangers to the United States. Or maybe they just were trying to get a lifestyle going, trying to get life skills going. But like I said, they should be the angriest people of all on Memorial Day. They should be fucking furious on Memorial Day, because it's not what they signed up for. What they're doing now is not defending American liberty. What they're doing now is tearing it down piece by piece. They are entrenching a huge government system, the largest in the history of the world, entrenching a government system that is dead set on eroding the basic liberties of its own citizens. We are seeing it play out. We're seeing the Biden administration, by leaps and bounds, attack virtually every institution. We're seeing the adoption of critical race theory, which is without a doubt divisive at its very core. It is designed to teach people that the founding of the nation was not based upon, common principles of liberty, of equality, of what we've been taught. Even if they owned slaves, yes, I acknowledge the founders had slaves. I acknowledge that. But people tried to rip Jefferson down. Jefferson tried to put amendments to end slavery several times. Just FYI. He's not a perfect man. There's no perfect system. There's no perfect country. There's no perfect people. But when you look at what the end results of this are, it is for censoring speech. It is for controlling the mindset. It is for basically undermining the basic foundation principles of liberty, of private property rights, and not of, what do they have? I don't want equality of outcome. I don't want equity, right? The country is founded upon hard work. You make your way here. You're assured nothing except your freedom, except your liberty. What we're fighting for now is basically the assurance that you're going to get handouts in exchange for you being subservient. It's the irony is almost too much, in that as we talk about slavery being a foundational point of the country in all these doctrines like the 1619 Project or critical race theory, we're ignoring the fact that it's being used to create modern slaves that are dependent on the government and look to the government as the master that's controlling their lives, controlling their destinies, controlling what they can and can't say, what they can and can't do, what their money is worth, and where their children are sent off to die. So think about that next time you eat that hot dog on Memorial Day. Like I said, I can't get around the irony anymore about the people coming home in boxes, the people that are coming home having served in the military in the last 25, 35, 40 years are not fighting for the same things that the people of the past were. They definitively are not. And everything that they're doing right now is furthering the cause of eroding and ending American liberty as we know it. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. The rest of this shit is on the podcast. And if you watch this video, otherwise, thanks for listening. Do subscribe to the podcast version. Get the full episode on there, and we'll see how much I can add on to this in the video aspect as I figure out the best way to edit it and get my different news stories in without me taking 5 minutes to read and then getting my social guy to edit it out, which may be the way it works. Might be the way it works. But hit the subscribe button on here. Hit that subscribe button on the podcast feed. 3 fantastic shows. We've got Mondays, Mark Claire with the flagship show doing interviews. Me on Wednesdays at Electric Libertyland doing mostly news, but I do have some guests here and there that I work in. And of course, John Odermatt is coming in on Thursdays with Finding Freedom, where he's focusing not only on the freedoms that you're going to find economically, in your personal life, in the justice system, but much, much more. And guys, check it out. If you like me, if you like our show, check out lionsofliberty.store. You can get your Taxation is Death t-shirt there, along with many others. This shirt particularly, though, I think sums it up and ties in nicely for today's theme, because your tax dollars, right? People can defend it. People can say, well, taxation is theft. Okay, that's theft. Well, you can object to that, right? Maybe you can have a good argument about it. You cannot argue that taxation leads to death. Taxation is death in our current American system. Your money is being used for bombs that murder innocent civilians. So one last tidbit, and look, we had to do an edit point there because I could not read the numbers on the screen right. I kept saying the wrong thing because I kept reading the number, then going on to the next sentence, and then fucking it up. So anyway, a new report just came out talking about how, yes, your tax dollars are used for dealing death, and that there are no surgical strikes. They like to pretend there are, but really, it's all casualties for civilians. New massive war study from the Action on Armed Violence, or AOAV, showed that 91% of all global casualties from explosives were civilians. Yeah. This is, of course, right after the Israelis bombed an apartment building in the Gaza Strip, where you had two of the fighter pilots basically saying, oh, we were frustrated about Hamas getting so successful in the region, so we just blew up this apartment building full of women and children. About, I think, 35 plus children now confirmed dead from those attacks. But some quick numbers here. Let's see. It says over 357,370 deaths or injuries in 28,879 incidents, 123 countries and territories. At least 262,413 of those casualties, or 73%, were civilians. Explosive weapons killed 155,000 people, 92 or not, almost 93,000 of those, 60%, civilians, and injured 202,000 people, of which 169, almost 170,000, or 84%, were civilians. So there you go. There's some fun facts for you guys. Whenever your asshole friends want to talk about how they want to be taxed more, we love to hear politicians talk about that. Tax me more. All you're talking about is taxation primarily used for death dealing. It's really... What's funny is that we always complain about government inefficiency, right? How many government programs there are that help in zero ways. You know, we talk about enlisting this government army, these people signing up to be slaves of the government. And what's so funny is that so many people that get the assistance from the government, it leads to nothing but basically stagnation in their lives. When you look at education dollars, you look to how that's going. Oh, stagnation in the education system. The only thing that's not stagnant when it comes to government spending your dollars efficiently is how many civilians they kill. Actually, I can't even say it's efficiently, but they're pretty damn good at killing civilians in other countries. Okay, there you go. That's the end of this video portion for today's show. We'll figure it out a little bit more as we go along. So thanks again, guys, for listening up to Lions of Liberty. I'm Brian McWilliams. This has been Electric Liberty Land. So for me, from all of us here, always stay plugged into liberty.